Well, what's up, everyone? So I know one of the biggest requests has been to see how to utilize Anki outside of medicine. And today I'm going to show you that by actually showing you some of my cards in the classes that I've taken outside of medicine, and we'll go from there. So let's do it. All right, welcome back to the small screen. If you don't know, my name is Prirak. I am a Yale medical student, and I am making videos on productivity and all things medicine. And today I'm going to show you how I utilize Anki to learn things outside of medical school. I know Anki is known for medical school, but I actually use it for everything. And you'll see here, I've used it for my MBA classes because outside of medicine, I am also getting an MBA. I have obviously used it for medical school, and I also use it for personal learning, such as, obviously some of the books I've been reading, as well as some of the courses that I take for fun on Coursera. And I know that makes me sound like a massive nerd, but trust me when I say Coursera has some of the most awesome courses I have ever seen, and you all should check it out. So with that being said, I actually want to walk you through this financial markets class I took on Coursera, primarily as a way for me to learn a little bit more about investing before I started investing on my own. And so you'll see that in this class, I actually separated out into week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6, and week 7, because this was an 8-week course. And as I went through each week's lectures, I would make flashcards relevant to that week's concepts. And as I would make those cards, it would first of all re-solidify the concepts. And the best part about all of this is now I can come back to a lot of these fundamental concepts in investing, even if I don't remember them right then. Let's say I start investing, which I am, like now, and I took this class 2 months ago, I can still review these cards as a way to get a primer. So now, without any further ado, I want to just walk you through some of the cards I've made and show you exactly how I go about utilizing Anki outside of medical school. So I'm just going to go ahead and start with week 3 because I tend to have quite a few review cards here. So why don't we click on week 3? And you'll see again, like I don't do these decks every day. I kind of have saved them, and I'll do them every now and then when I want a refresher or I have a little bit extra time and I'm like, oh, I would love to remember a lot of these concepts about investing. So let's get started. So now here is a sample card. The question is, what does it mean that the Chinese economy is a leverage? Leverage basically means that you're borrowing a lot, which means you amplify your gains. But when you have losses, for example, having a highly leveraged economy is actually really bad, because that means if you have a loss quarter, you actually then have this potential of going completely bankrupt because you can't pay back your loans, right? So you'll see that much more of its economy is coming from other people's money. Leveraging means that you use other people's money, and thus when you get gains, they're amplified, but losses are also amplified. And you'll also see I included a slide from the class. And the reason I include the slide from the class is because it always gives me a good primer to go off of exactly where I'm getting the concept from. And for those of you who may not be entirely too familiar with Anki, here's the actual foundation behind my card. I asked the question. The closed deletion is the answer to the question. And underneath in the extra column, I have it italicized, as well as the slide is pasted in there as well. So let's move on. So here's another question. It's asking, what is an annuity? I believe an annuity is something that pays a certain amount X from time 1 to time T. Okay, so here, this is when you have something that pays a coupon X from time 1 to time T. And so again, you'll see here, I included the slide. You'll see I included the picture. And again, if you want to see the background behind this, question, answer, source, right? It's a very, very easy formula that I've used from a lot of my cards, and it kind of helps. What is a share repurchase? So this is often, you'll see this in business a lot. A business will often use extra income to buy back some of their shares from the market so that they have a larger amount of shares to ultimately sell in the future. So you'll see when the company goes out and buys shares, the value of the firm will decrease by the amount that the company buys the stocks. But ultimately, the company loses value, but now you have a higher amount that the company owns on its own, right? So again, I included the slide, and you'll see that I've actually been able to foundationalize a lot of these principles. So again, what does it mean to leverage money? We just talked about this. Leveraging is essentially borrowing, right? When you use someone else's money, whether that's a bank, someone else like your neighbor, it amplifies the gain, but it also amplifies the losses. What is dividend signaling? So dividend signaling is when companies often pay dividends to ensure that they can signal to their shareholders, we're doing well. We have net positive profit and we can afford to give you dividends. So don't worry about us. We're doing well and you should continue to invest, right? So again, you'll see exactly what you'll see here is by sending dividends, you're showing individuals that you are able to handle and overcome bankruptcy as a company. And so now here's another question. I framed this as a true or false. And it says true or false. Most of the gains that people have gotten in stocks are from dividends and not in capital gains. This is actually true. I think people tend to think that most of the money people make in stocks is through like the stock price increasing or decreasing. But the actual reality is that most people make money through dividends, which is essentially a certain amount you get from the company just for holding the stock in that company. And that's actually one of the best aspects because it's almost a form of passive income. Is the firm required to pay dividends? That's actually no. You're not required to pay dividends, but you do because, again, as we talked about with dividend signaling earlier, by paying dividends, you're actually showing people you are doing well as a company. I do want to show this add-on. It's called Pop-Up Dictionary. So every time you have a concept that you like want to know more about, you just highlight it and it shows every similar card. And I really like this because, as I just showed you, we can go back to that card about dividend signaling and you'll see here it shows dividend signaling. And again, it shows literally every card with dividends, and therefore you can really create a bunch of links. So if you want to know a bit more about that, why don't you drop a comment below and I can make a separate video on the pop-up dictionary, but it's one of my favorite add-ons. And now for the sake of showing you guys a little bit more material, let's do week 4. And again, you're going to see that this material is not the same as week 3. How many people can a 3C1 hedge fund take and how much income and assets should they have? So I think a 3C1 is no more than 50 people and they have to have an income of more than 100,000 and assets more than $1 million. I'm not sure. Oh, I was pretty close. Okay, so it's no more than 99 investors, and you need to have more than $200,000 like in income or 1 million in assets. And you'll see again at the bottom, I included the place where I got this question from, which was a quiz question during the course. And I think this is one of the fundamentals of schooling, right? Like when I was taking this course, this was very like rememberable to me because I remembered what hedge funds were. I remember like how many investors you need and the amount you need for each one. But now that it's been a while, I obviously won't remember it. And that's where things like Anki come in and really do help to solidify a lot of these concepts. And you'll see that all of my questions are direct to the point and also include the source that I get everything from. So a 3C7 hedge fund now, I think this one has to be no more than 50 people with a net worth of $1 million. I don't remember. 5 million. Okay, so a net worth of 5 million or an organization with a net worth of 25 million. Okay. What is a bank run? Okay, so a bank run, I remember, is like when everyone is so uncertain about the economy that they all line up outside the bank, and it almost looks like a run because everyone is lining up outside the bank and asking for their money back. So it's when everyone goes to the bank at the same time. And again, you'll see that I always include these images. And this is actually really crazy. So you'll see that in 2008, after the recession, the amount of excess reserve that the bank had was insane. Like no one was going to the bank because no one wanted to borrow money because they had that much uncertainty about the bank. And so you'll see that the reserve actually shot up. And that's why banks ended up having such a large amount. And you'll see that before the recession in 2007, why were banks giving out mortgages to people that could not afford them? And again, the answer to this question is because back in the day, banks would just give out mortgages, and by giving out those mortgages and loans, they would then sell those loans to other companies without doing their background research because they were just thinking, oh, everyone will pay their mortgages back, which didn't end up being the case, right? So banks would resell mortgages to CMOs, and therefore they were not incentivized to make sure the mortgages were unlikely to default because they were getting their money by selling the mortgage to someone else. So this is actually really interesting, and I'm hoping that by showing you guys some of these flashcards, I can show you that Anki is really good, not just for medicine, but for literally anything you want to learn. And the way, again, you could make these cards is by literally doing, write a question, write your answer, and the way you do a closed deletion is by pressing Control-Shift-C. By pressing that, you will then make it this, you'll see what I'm showing you. Write the question, write the answer, do the Control-Shift-C, make it a closed deletion, and then you'll create a flashcard. And in the extra column, include any extra information you need. And again, you can apply this general formula of learning to anything. And it does really well. I will make future videos about how I've used this to learn literally anything and everything. I've used it in masterclass. I've used it during books. When I'm reading a book and they have a really salient point, I add it into Anki. And by doing all of these things, it actually really helps me retain information that I otherwise would never retain. Like I know for a fact, if I had taken this financial markets course and not made the Anki cards, I would retain maybe 10% of what I've currently retained. And what I've currently retained is not that much, but I've actually still retained a lot more than I ever thought imaginable, primarily because of tools like this. So with that being said, if you guys have any questions at all, please drop them below. As you know, I love talking about this stuff. I love trying to find ways to optimize learning, and I genuinely hope this was helpful for you. Drop a comment, like, share, subscribe. It genuinely means the world to me to have you guys appreciate this material. And if you do, well, that's literally the goal of this channel. So thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in the next video.